I'm Jess, and in today's video, I'm going to share a complete overview of the sewing machine and share my recommendations for purchasing your first sewing machine. I know that sewing machines can be super overwhelming for beginners, and I've heard time and time again that I don't want to mess up or I don't want to wreck the machine. Well, don't worry, you're not alone. And the only way that you're going to get comfortable with your machine is if you sit down and practice. And you need to have patience with yourself and also the machine as you learn and get comfortable with it. Test different stitches, try different fabrics, and practice with your machine. You will make mistakes and you will have to get out your seam ripper. We've all been there. But that's okay. It's all part of the process, and the more you sew, the more it will become second nature. But before you begin stitching, open up that user manual that came with your machine and learn about where the parts on your machine are. Each machine is a little different, and if you can't find your user manual, I almost guarantee you that if you visit the machine manufacturer's website, they have a free copy that you can download. For this video, I'll show you the basic parts of a sewing machine, although your machine might have those parts in a different spot or might have a slightly different icon. There are two types of machines that you can shop for, either mechanical or computerized. The mechanical machines are often more affordable, but you have to be careful because some mechanical machines are made out of plastic parts. You'll want to look for a machine that has a metal frame or the heavy-duty metal parts on it to make sure that it'll last. The computerized machines usually have some more features such as speed control and easier threading, which will make it a little bit easier for beginners to get started and make the barrier to starting to sew a little bit less intimidating. People always ask me what machine I recommend, and honestly, there are a lot of options out there. Usually you can get by with just the basics. You don't have to invest in an expensive machine to get started sewing. I recommend to look at the machines and weigh those options, see what features that you absolutely love, can't live without, and also think about the projects that you're going to be making. Are those features going to be helpful for the projects that you want to create? Also, I recommend to think long term. If you like to sew and you're going to continue with it as a hobby, then invest a little bit more in a machine that you're going to be happy with and get lots of use out of. Don't settle for a cheap machine that will give you fits. I personally sew on this machine, which is a Baby Lock Accomplish. This machine is a straight stitch only machine, so there's no buttonhole, no zigzag, no decorative stitches, only a straight stitch. However, it's super powerful and a very durable machine for the projects that I sew. It sews through multiple layers like butter, and it's super fast and reliable. It is a mechanical machine, so I don't need all the bells and whistles for sewing every day. I do like embroidery, so I have a separate embroidery machine for those projects, but for all my day-to-day projects, I always go back to this machine. This machine is made out of quality metal parts, so it is a heavier machine, but it won't rattle around like the plastic machines that you find at the chain stores. In this video, I'm actually going to do an overview of the Baby Lock Jubilant, so not the Accomplish today. And it's a great place to start for beginners. It will last many, many years, and so lots of projects. But I'm completely aware that these machines may not be in the budget range for everybody. So another great machine to start with is the Baby Lock Zest. It is a mechanical machine that has a durable frame with a portable design and 15 built-in stitches. So let's go over the basic parts of the machine. So we'll start at the top of the machine and work our way down, going over each of the parts. At the upper right, you have your bobbin winder, where you place your bobbin to wind your bobbin. There is a hole at the top for an extra spool pin for holding an extra spool of thread for sewing with the twin needle. This is not a hole for lubrication, so don't put any oil inside this hole. Also at the top, you have your spool pin, and included with the accessories of your machine will be a spool cap that you'll place over the end after placing the spool onto the pin, and the cap will help hold the spool in place. Also at the back here, we have a carry handle. There is a metal hook at the back top of the machine for a thread guide for your spool of thread for sewing with, but it is also used for when you're winding the bobbin. Also at the top, you have a bobbin winding thread guide and pre-tension disc. Here we have the tension dial for adjusting any tension on your machine. On the left side of the machine, you have the needle threader lever and also the thread cutter. Now that we covered everything on the top of the machine, on the right hand side we have the hand wheel. You can turn the hand wheel towards you, which is counterclockwise, to raise and lower the needle to sew one stitch. Remember to always turn the hand wheel towards you, never turn the hand wheel backwards. Another thing to note is you'll want to turn the hand wheel until you can see the take-up lever at the highest point. Down below the hand wheel, there is the on and off switch. So I'm going to turn the machine on, and that will light up the LCD screen, which is featured on this machine since it's a computerized machine. And then there's also a light over by the needle and the presser foot. Here you have your operating keys. Looking a bit closer, the upper key is for adjusting the stitch length, so you can push the negative mark for lowering the stitch length, making it smaller, or you could click on the plus sign, which will increase the stitch length, making it a longer stitch. Down below that, we have another key, and this is for decreasing and increasing the stitch width. So this is in particular for zigzag stitches or some of these featured decorative stitches on your machine if you have those capabilities. The next key on the screen is the needle position setting. So this shows whether the needle is in the programmed raised or lowered position. In addition, it shows whether a single needle mode or twin needle mode is selected. The next key is for automatic reverse and reinforcement of your stitching. So this shows that the automatic reverse or reinforcement is currently turned on or off. Below the guide with all of the available stitches on this machine, there is the stitch selector dial, and this can simply be turned left or right to turn the number on the LCD screen to which stitch that I would like. So for example, if I wanted stitch number 6, I would turn the dial so it shows the number 6 on the screen. Here on the front of the machine, we have the operating buttons, including the speed control setting. The speed controller can be used to adjust the speed at which your feed dogs will move when sewing, but when you're winding a bobbin, you can also adjust the speed control so that way your bobbin can wind slower or faster, and you can simply adjust it by sliding it to the left or to the right. So to the left is the slowest position, and to the right is the fast position. So if you're just starting out and your machine has these capabilities, you might want to be on the slowest stitch setting, so that way you'll only be able to sew as fast as the slowest setting allows. Not all machines have a speed control setting, so the speed is controlled by the foot pedal. The foot pedal is the pedal attached to a cord which gets plugged into the machine on the right hand side. Controlling the speed by the foot pedal, you will press down to go faster and release up to go slower. So you can start out slow by lightly pressing on the foot pedal to sew slowly. And you can increase your speed as you feel comfortable. To manually backstitch and reinforce your stitches, which is always a good idea to do at the beginning and ending of every seam, you'll just simply hold this button in and it will do the back stitching for you. If you have a mechanical machine, there's usually a lever on the right hand side that you will hold down with your fingers to do your back stitching instead of a button. This machine also has the capability to reinforce in place. So for the standard back stitch, the machine will stitch backwards a few stitches until you release the button. For stitching in place, it will just stitch up and down in the same spot a few times to reinforce the stitches. The next button on the machine is the needle position button. So you'll press the needle position button to raise or lower the needle, and you can press the button twice to sew one stitch. If you don't want to use the foot pedal to control the machine starting and stopping, you can use the start-stop button. So you would simply press the start button and the machine will start sewing, and when you're done, you can push the button for it to stop sewing. Again, this is a computerized machine, so not all mechanical machines have these capabilities, but it's good to know these features are available and they do make it easier for beginners. Personally, I have found that the start-stop button is good for when doing free motion quilting, but it is a little bit difficult to control the start and stop of the sewing with the button because that's another thing to use your hands for. If you have the ability to use the foot pedal, I definitely recommend doing that so that way you have both hands to control your fabric. The next area I want to show you is the needle and presser foot section. So looking a little bit closer, you have the needle bar thread guide, which has a number 6 above it, and that is for when we thread the sewing machine. Next is the needle plate, and that is this metal plate with all of these guideline markings, and it allows the feed dogs to raise and lower and move your fabric through underneath the presser foot. This plastic area is called the needle plate cover, and that covers the bobbin case and some areas that you might need to access if you need to clean your machine or access the bobbin case. Next, also on the needle plate cover is the bobbin cover, and underneath that is the bobbin case. So to open the bobbin cover, you just simply pull on the little lever on the side and the cover just pops up. So this can come out so that way you can access the bobbin down below. And to put it in, you see there's a tab on the left-hand side and that has to go underneath. There's a little metal part right there, and then you simply just push down and it clicks in place. The grooved metal bars underneath the presser foot are called the feed dogs, and these feed the fabric into the sewing machine and pull it through. This right here is called the presser foot. The presser foot applies pressure consistently on your fabric as you are sewing, and these can be changed. So there are a variety of presser feet available on the market depending on the stitch that you want to do. Perhaps you want to do a buttonhole or sew on a button. There's applique, zipper feet, all different kinds for different applications and techniques. This metal unit with a white sticker on the front and a black lever on the back is called the presser foot holder. You may need to remove this from time to time when you're attaching different styles of feet, such as a walking foot, and this is removed with the screw on the left-hand side of the presser foot holder. But mostly you can just leave it attached to your machine. On the back side of the machine on the left, there is a buttonhole lever, and you use that if you are sewing buttonholes. And here we have the presser foot lever, so you can lower and raise the presser foot by just simply pushing down or pulling up on the lever. On the front and the side of the machine, this part is actually removable. So this is called the flatbed attachment, so that way you have a flat surface to sew on. Another name for this is your accessory tray. So this front part of the compartment, if you push with your thumb and pull with your fingers, actually opens. And inside you can add some accessories, extra bobbins, or things that came with your machine to keep it all together and organized. To remove the flatbed attachment, you simply push on the tray and it slides right off. And to reattach, you can simply slide back in and it pops in place. Since each machine is a little bit different, I wanted this video to be a broad overview. If you have more questions, please comment below and I will try my best to answer them so that way we can keep the conversation going. If you're ready to continue with this challenge, I encourage you to stay tuned for the next videos in this series where I'll show you how to thread a sewing machine, how to wind a bobbin, how to change presser feet, how to change a needle, and how to sew a straight stitch. Thanks so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet by clicking the subscribe button below. And if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's to not be overwhelmed by sewing. With practice and patience over time, you'll soon be comfortable with your machine before you know it. I'll see you soon. Bye.